handlebars. We're going to be changing them out in this video.
It is fairly simple, but sometimes it can be a little time consuming. There's a couple cool tricks I want to show you about. We're doing this on a Sherco, but this will apply to any kind of motorcycle with handlebars. Just a simple how-to. Why do we change out our handlebars? What's the reason? Maybe you crashed and you bent you want to change the style. You just want a different look. Sometimes they have cool comfort things, anti-vibration things that are quite often sought after. Sometimes they're stronger and more protective than the stock ones are. And of course, a lot of times it's just for our own ergonomics, our own comfort.
Handlebars are so much of a personal preference thing. You really got to think about what you want. Maybe you want your hands a little more tighter in, maybe you want them a little more flat, maybe I want them a little higher. It's just going to be to you. Personally, I find this actually isn't so bad when I'm sitting on it. I find this to be a decently commanding position. I wouldn't mind it though being a pinch higher, and that also plays into this. When I stand up, I'm a little like, I gotta really pull forward. If I'm actually kind of in a position here, so I realize you need to be a little knee bent anyway, but I wouldn't mind the bars coming up just a hair more, a hair. And that's what I'm gonna try to get out of this, as well as a slight difference in the bend.
When you go to look at bars, you're gonna see all kinds of different sizes and shapes. You're gonna have to try to sit on your own bike, kind of figure out what makes sense to you. Where do you want them at? Let me show you which one we've gone with. This is a Pro Taper CR high bend. Again, this comes down to ergos. You like what you like, and I like this bend. I've also gone with this neat sort of titanium color, a little bit different color to go with. This is also a 1 1/8 bar. That's what comes on this bike. That means it's thicker down here and it thins out to the 7/8 at the top. That's another number you're gonna see when you look up bars for your bike. Does your bike need a 7/8 bar or a 1 1/8 bar? They're all 7/8 at the ends, unless you have a Harley. Harley's 1 inch across. It's a little different, but for everything else, we're called with 7/8 at the ends here. On a number of bikes, the bar stays this length all the way through, but on these 1 1/8 bars, they get thicker through the middle part here. Can you see that? See how it's thicker? These tend to be a good bit stronger than a lot of just factory steel bars. This bike actually comes with a pretty decent bar on it. I'm mainly doing this because I want a different bend on it. Some will argue that these 1 1/8 are stronger than the 7/8. Of course, the 7/8 ones though that have a crossbar, I would argue that that's even stronger, but there's even a degree of flex, and it's a whole argument. Look, also it comes with this cool bar pad. We're gonna change it to this hyper yellow one. This came from Revzilla. Big thanks to them. Revzilla have always been a great help for us here on this channel. We have links in the description below. We're also gonna install these ridiculous high-vis domino. This is a part of the G2 throttle kit we're putting on the bike too, from G2 Ergonomics. That's another video I'm filming sort of simultaneously with this one. Anyway, let's get to the bike. One of the first things we need to do then is to kind of unbolt all the stuff on the bars and kind of lay it out somewhere. We're not going to disconnect it from the other end. That'd just be a silly waste of time. So we're gonna have a bunch of sort of dangling stuff everywhere, and we need somewhere to sort of put it on just to keep us from scratching things. Like I said, we're not taking it all apart. Just lay an old beach towel down. Just stole one here from the house real quick, and my wife is working, so she doesn't know. So as I take things off, I'll try to kind of set them over this, or maybe I'll put another towel over the front fender. We'll kind of see what makes sense, but we need to start getting everything unbolted. Start with some zip ties. For now, I'm just going to take this couple thread, reattach it. Usually these controls are held on with 2 screws, but this one I believe is 1, and then the whole thing hinges. Check this out. It just hinges right off. I don't think there's any holes in this bar. That answers something that I was wondering about. On a lot of street bikes, there's usually a small tab in here that you have to relocate onto the bars. This bike doesn't have that. But on bikes that have them, when you go to put your controls back on your new bars, you don't have those holes there. There's 2 options. One, people will grind those little nubs off. I'd say that I don't love that because that is a really strong way of holding that down. I've invented a way of actually inserting those holes back in the bars, which I'll show you. Now, this is where our little relocator tab is. What we need to do is basically stick everything on kind of in a dry run to figure out where we want our housing sitting, the twisted angle of it, because remember there's some buttons on here. We're going to want those somewhat aiming at us in a way that makes sense. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting a little bit of tape. This will make more sense in just a moment. This is not going to be staying. You'll see. Hook this all back up how it's supposed to be. An important thing here to note is that this is not going to fully come together perfectly right now. That tab is going to keep it from wanting to like fully set down all the way. So we don't want to like force anything super hard. We could actually snap that thing, but we can kind of put it together. Now we have to sit on the bike itself. Try not to actually touch that just yet. Big thing is your thumb, right? Your thumb's supposed to operate all these things, so make sure it's in a position to make sense. We also need to look at our throttle cables and make sure that the routing is not in some weird way. We need to make sure that the bar is sticking out further than our throttle tube. When we go to hand guards, that'll make a lot of sense. From here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this housing, I'm just gonna squeeze it, especially on the back side, because that's where the tab is. It's on the back half of this. This has worked correctly. Should have done something here really cool. If you look right here, we have made a little mark in our tape. This is where that tab is going to be sitting. Trying to drill a hole into a round bar can be a little bit difficult. A few years ago, what I did is I took a couple extra stock bar clamps like this. I think these are actually off my Grom, and I made a little tool. My dad calls this my boring tool. And you can see what it does there is it literally will clamp on the bar. It's got a small hole. So what I'll do is I'll stick this on there. I'll get down there with a flashlight and line this up just perfectly. And to start with, I'll do a pretty small hole. Don't skip out on them. But this bike, this set of controls was designed to go on a bike like this. And it actually has a little rubber pad in here. It squishes down. This stays really snug. I actually assumed there was a pin in there, but there's not. Now, since I'm putting new grips on, I'm not gonna try to reuse this. I'm just gonna leave this on here. Moving on to the brake. So to remove our throttle assembly, we have a cable coming off of it. That's for our switches. 2 Allens here on the back side. And we have to pop our throttle off like that. All right, now we can start undoing the final clamps for the bars. Yeah, and look at this one. It's actually not in bad shape. We'll hang on to that. Of course, one of the fun things to do is actually go and put your 2 bars kind of next to each other and sort of see how they compare. You can see that the CR high is a little higher than this one. It's not crazy high. I think a lot of people get the impression it's like a super tall bar. It is a little bit higher. Length is about the same. One of the things I think that's really interesting is to see the sort of sweep in the bars interact with each other. They're a little bit different. You can kind of see the difference in the height between them. But this is going to be one of those tricky things. It's hard when you're just looking at the specs of all these different bars out there to know what's going to make the most sense. I can tell you I've bought bars for bikes and then didn't like how they felt after the fact, and kind of stinks. You go through the gamble, but you know, if nothing else, you can always kind of hang on to them. They'll work on something else, or you can give them to a buddy.
This video is sponsored by Aura.
Did you hear that Bank of America had just a breach, just a little breach, no big deal. And on average, companies are taking around 277 days to report these breaches. So have fun, criminals, have fun. The slow legs of the law will never catch you at that rate. You're just gonna be done by then. And guess what? It's still fairly early in the year, but it's not even Bank of America's first breach this year. Nope. Oh, you use Chase, JP Mortgage, Citigroup, you think you're okay? Well, just last year they announced breaches too. Hey, your bank might be breached right now. You're probably not even gonna know about it for 9 months. But that's why I wanna talk to you about Aura. What Aura does is they alert me when they find my phone number, find my social security number, my bank accounts out there on the internet, out there on the dark web. They're gonna let you know fast, well before the bank is gonna let you know. And hey, worst case scenario, they have up to $5 million of identity theft insurance. And they also offer a bunch of other wonderful features to help keep you safe online, all wrapped up in one very easy to use app. Well, if you want to get protected there, head on over to aura.com/gardensnake and you can get a 14-day free trial. That's enough time to see if your information's been compromised, if you're out there on the dark web, or some sort of action you need to take. Believe me, you're going to find out way sooner than these companies are going to tell you. Oh, and when these companies do finally tell you about it, one of the things they're going to do is offer you free credit monitoring. Thanks, guys. I don't know about you, but I'd want to go ahead and start monitoring it right now. It's crazy times. Our stuff just gets leaked out everywhere, it feels like these days, and sometimes it almost probably feels overwhelming. Like, why even bother? Well, if you haven't been a victim of identity theft, I don't think you're going to want to be one. Never sounds good from my ear. So instead of just waiting around for it to happen, I suggest you check out Aura and get yourself protected. That's what I do for myself and my family. You want to do the same, going down to aura.com/gardensnake, your 14-day free trial. All right, try to place this somewhat in the middle. Another thing, by the way, on this bike that you may have noticed is there's actually 2 sets of holes. I can change where my clamps sit on here, closer position or more further away position. And I also, these are slightly offset. I could turn them 180 degrees, which technically gives me 4 places within a slight amount of room from each other that I can set these. I don't even know right now. I'm not having like a thought in my head that I need to move them, so I'm just gonna put them where they're sitting. If I choose to move them later, it's pretty easy work. A lot of times there's a definitive forward and back. I think there's a little S on here. I think that S faces you, but I'm not really sure, and there's a way you can usually find out. I'm gonna do it with the S facing out. Let's just see how this sort of fits up on here. See how this ends like that? We actually want the clamping end to be on this side, and that would be the S facing you. This is also kind of shows you when you tighten these down initially, what you want to do is you want to snug this one down to start. Don't crank it, just snug it down, and then you want to put some oomph on this one. You want to make sure that this front one is touching completely and the back one is the one that's floating. That's how they're supposed to do. And it's the same, by the way, for the clamps for our clutch and brake levers and anything else that clamps in here. A lot of times you'll find if it's like an aluminum clamping thing, it's got something going on like this. Yeah, a lot of people just sort of tighten them evenly and they think that that's good, but you'll get much more force on it if you snug this one and then tighten it up on this side. But now we know the little S faces us. Get these clamps on with just a tiny amount of pressure on them, just so this bar doesn't keep moving around. So go ahead and see, I need to scoot them over just a little. What I need to do now is sit on it and see how it feels. See where I want these things. I think this is a good choice already. That's good. I love it when you sit on one right away and you go, oh yeah. We've got them even this way. We need to do is kind of find the roll. Where do I want them at? It's always good too to stand up a bit, see how that feels. It's always gonna feel a little weird too because these feel real thin. Everything seems kind of naked. You don't have any of your stuff up on here. That's too towards me. I don't like that. I almost feel like that's a bit too forward. I feel like I need to come back maybe about there. Yeah, this is just personal at this point. There's not a right or wrong way to do this. I'm sure someone out there will tell you, you know, some riding expert will try to tell you it needs to be some certain way, but you just gotta do what seems right to you. Now the nice thing is with this bike, since there's no holes to be put in the bars for the controls, if I decide later I wanna roll it forward, roll it back a little, I can just readjust all my stuff by loosening it and twisting it. If you have a bike though, where before we need to bore the hole, spend a little time with try to get it really good. Because if you have to move them, and I've had to do it on a bike before after I've drilled those holes, then sometimes your controls are aiming a little funny, you know, and then you're just kind of dealing with them at that point. I think this might be it right here. I'm kind of digging this over just a little bit. So like I was saying before, we're gonna snug these hot part of the clamp down. Really not much pressure I need to put on it. See, I'm literally turning it with my hand like on the wrench like this. Now I can bring the rears down. Nice. I love it. I'm gonna start over here on the clutch side, start putting everything back together. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this little plug out right here because I do plan to run hand guards. I'm actually gonna be installing those right after I get done installing everything else. On this side, I think the best thing to do is actually go ahead and put the grip on. The grip will kind of dictate then where everything sort of starts after that. Not that you can't still move things around. If you even notice there's some marks on here with numbers, some crazy dudes get in here and cut these and then re-grind down the ends, and that's insane. Or they wait till they have a hard crash and they've rashed this really bad and then they cut it and they go cut the other one to match, you know. I'm bleeding. I'm like a little blood. Look at that, a little, you see a little nick there. I got myself with the tripod a second ago. Grips are another one of those things that's just complete personal preference. There's different styles, waffle or pillows or little diamonds. This little diamonds, doesn't matter. No, this is total personal preference. God, these things are just glowing on camera. These are intense. The bad thing with these, they're gonna show dirt real fast. But this is another one of the fun things, it's sort of personal preference. I know we're showing this on a dirt bike. I typically put dirt grips though on all my street bikes too. What I like about these is they're way more grippy than a street bike grip. They're so gummy and nice in your hand, and the downside of that is they are gonna wear out quicker. They just will. But they are cheap. The other thing you're gonna see is when I put these on, I'm not gonna use any grip glue. I'm gonna show you another way to put them on. And I think it's much better because it preserves this bar. You put grip glue on here, you go to take it off, you're dealing with crusted up glue on here, or same on the throttle tube side. If it's a plastic throttle tube, forget it. That's like, it's all infused. So we're gonna do it with the safety wire. I'm gonna show you how to do that. I've been doing that for years. They don't twist, I love it. And it just means when you go to change them, it's so easy. Before I go sticking these on, I'm gonna get in here with a razor. I'm gonna cut this end out. I need to cut a circle on the end here because we're gonna run hand guards. I'm gonna follow this line right here along the edge here. I'm just gonna start scoring it, going around. I'm not gonna try to force it. Another thing I don't think I've mentioned is that these grips are actually slightly different thicknesses. One of them is gonna feel thinner and one's gonna feel thicker. The thicker one goes on the clutch side. The thinner one goes on the throttle side. Perfect. Look at that. Look how smooth and clean that is. And some people like to put lube on here, and they say that helps it slip on. And a lot of people love to do hairspray. Like I said, I don't like to lube them. This is serrated. This is a soft rubber. We're gonna just put it on. And I don't like to put anything in there, to be honest with you. And a lot of times you can get them on pretty good. They're gonna hit a point where they're gonna get real stiff. And that's where some compressed air comes in. Now, we could come in here and spray it from this thing. And literally doing this will help us walk it, but even if you've got this other end capped, you can come in here and kind of lift on it, kind of pull it, Just be careful when you got this end capped, you see it start ballooning, you know, like slow down, make sure you've popped your other end off so that some air pressure can come out. But once you have both of them on, it gets a little silly, but you can kind of do it like this, or you can come in here and kind of put some pressure on it. I'm also going to spin it, get it where I want it as I get to the final bit, make sure I've got spun where I like it. And in the case of the clutch side one, I've got it basically flush right now. I'm going to go a pinch more in just because the throttle side, we're not going to have directly up against it. So like I was saying before, we're going to safety wire these on. That literally means we're going to put safety wire around the bike. It's very sharp, pointy, makes you bleed easy wire. We're gonna wrap this around the grips, twist it down real tight, and then cut it off. That seems really dangerous and stupid, right? I mean, this literally, if I just did that, it would go right into my skin. It's raining out there if you haven't heard. It's actually not hard to do this in a way where the pokey bit of the wire is very small and pushed into this rubber, and it is not a problem. I like this procedure because when it's all said and done, if we want to change our grips out, they're worn out, it's not glue, it's not BS-free, it's cut this wire. I'll take a razor, slit this, peel the old one off, and then put the new one on. It's so fast, it's so easy, so I love it. Now, one of the cool things here you get with a lot of MX grips like this one is they actually have some spots, you know, these dirt bike grips, they have a slot right here and here for safety wire. There's even a little nub right here I can see where we can easily tuck our end piece. I wish there was a third one down here. I can always just, you don't have to have a groove. You can just stick it somewhere on there and it'll be fine. I like to have at least 3. These are actually some fancy safety wire pliers, but you can also just do this with a pair of needle nose, whatever. These just make it a little more convenient, but they are not necessary by any means. I'll take care of doing this. On this very channel, I've made myself bleed numerous times from these things. Safety wire pliers let you do you just kind of pull on it and see how it starts doing it for you. But again, I've done this. I've safety wired so many things with just a pair of normal pliers. Don't think you have to have these. They're just a nice thing to have if you do. That's all I need to do right there. It's easy to overdo these and tear stuff up. Now we're left with this extremely dangerous little stack here. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna come here with our snips, and we're gonna cut this where it's just a couple strands left, 2 or 3 strands of this wire, which is arguably even more dangerous now. I need to kind of bend it. Let's try to start the bend a little bit like this. We'll take this and push it down. We force that down in there. With my bare finger, even pushing hard against this, I can't feel that nub. Let's boost some more. Yeah, there we go. Love that. Super grippy. Can't hurt myself on all these little nubs. Love the feel of a new set of grips. Let's bolt everything else back up. Put everything on, but we'll leave everything a little loose. Kind of similar before we were talking about with the clamps. Just like on the handlebars, they got a thing there. This actually has an arrow pointing up. It'll usually have an arrow like that, or it'll say up, and that will go this way. All right, let me get back on the bike, and I'm gonna feel where I want that clutch lever to be. This is, again, is total personal preference. I kind of like this thing where my finger goes straight out. I want it to go straight. Touch the lever, this kind of neutral position. That would still work just fine standing. You can also set your clutch lever, where do you want it in a little more? Do you want it out a little more? I'm gonna get it where my finger, as I sit here, there's a bit of a groove right here. I don't want it to be on top of that groove. I want it to be in sort of natural state just inside that groove, maybe about right there. As you tighten it up, it may kind of move around, so you might have to kind of readjust. Like this one keeps trying to rise a little bit. Feels right, so I'm gonna then snug this top one up. All right, now see, where do I want this switch at? Make sure the switch also isn't interfering with the clutch. It's not. It's a good position. All right, tell it not to move. I almost prefer the ones where you put the little hole in the bar, and it's a little more work, and it's also a little more commit. But even when you snug this down all the way, if I really want, I can turn this thing. If I'm really worried, I can open it up and put a strip of electrical tape in there. We'll tighten it up a bit more. I almost think I might need to do that. If your controls have the nub and you cut them off and put electrical tape, I'm gonna make fun of you. But if you have bars like this where you don't have a choice, then all that's really left to do is to add our hand guards on this side, but we're not doing that. in this video. We're making a change here. We're not putting on the stock throttle assembly. We're putting on this, the G2 ergonomics throttle, make everything actually more precise. 50% throttle, hopefully being actually close to what 50% horsepower is, which you actually don't get at all with the stock setup. Take my throttle tube and stick it on here. If you don't want to run that cap, you're gonna run hand guards, it just comes right off. Got the cable here. I'm gonna fish it into my throttle housing. Gonna spin that around. If we weren't going to run hand guards, we're going to have a grip on here. But if anything, we actually need to make sure that this is slightly overhanging the rest of the tube. But if you're going to run bar ends or hand guards, it's actually the other way. We need to make sure it's slightly in where you can see a piece of this metal sticking out. And the reason why is when we have a hand guard on there or a bar end, if it does fall on this, if this is sticking out further than the bar, it'll jam on the throttle wherever it was set at. It can also break this. But with it slightly inset, this can be compressed in, the bar end, the hand guard, whatever, can smash in and all the force goes into this and doesn't pin our throttle. And you hear it sometimes, the bike has a big hit, throttle's hanging on, got a little bit of slack there. That's what you want. You don't want it to be completely tight, because as we turn the bars, we want to make sure that it still has that. We also want to check it now. Not only do we have a little bit of wiggle all the way through, but it doesn't bind up anywhere. And good snap. I'm going to jam this down. Just do this one by hand, these little jammers. Same thing with those clutches. This is hydraulic clutch, but on cable clutches, I don't like it when you have to put a tool on that adjuster. You should be able to do it by hand, but that's good. So we'll put that over it. Just put on one of these little donuts before we put the grip on. These are just sit between this housing and the rubber so that you have barrier cushion. I try to make sure there's a gap off of them anyway, but never a bad idea to put one of these in there. Just helps keep everything happy and smooth. That's the big thing there. We want everything to be nice and smooth. Trim the other one just like we did before. Oddly enough, this one does have a place for 3. I wonder why the throttle side gets 3 and whatever. Let's put some wire on. Very good. Got my logo in the same spot. Happy with the location of this, so we'll snug this down. So we have everything on the bars basically done up, but there's 2 issues that we have run into. This is the thing about doing handlebars. Not necessarily complicated, but can be time consuming and issues can arise. A very common one when you change the length and height, everything still being able to reach where you've put it. Now these bars, as much as Trent calls me an old man, says these are old man bars, to hell with you, Trenton. My bars are barely taller than the stock bars. Everything mostly fit, but our brake cable does not. That is the thing that can happen. You push everything out, you know, electrical wires, throttle cables. Sometimes this stuff is a little bit out of place. This is the thing that will scare a lot of people and they'll go, oh my God, how do you deal with that? It's not a big deal. The most annoying thing is the wires, believe it or not, when you have your controls suddenly can't reach. Now you're really just gonna have to go in there and cut them and extend them all. You actually kind of cut them in a stair-stepping order so all your joints aren't right next to each other, and you can kind of hide it in the stack. It'll have a little chunky bits in there, but there's ways of doing that. Really nice is when you do that and you de-pin it at the end of the connector so that you can completely re-sleeve the whole thing with a new piece of heat shrink. Then you got things like throttle or clutch cables, but you need to get longer ones. And I know it can seem scary, but there's a ton of people out there that do those. You just got to get the ends and measurements right. And then you have things like hydraulic clutch cables, which this one happened to be fine, but again, or the hydraulic brake cable. This one is not okay. This one is too short. This was a weird thing with the Sherco to begin with. This was already a bit too short. It was very tight running across the dash right here. But as you can see, we've got it kind of pulled out right here. What it's meant to do is come up like this and then go behind the headlight. There's 2 little holders right here, then run over and across into our master. Hydraulic clutches and brake lines, again, it sounds scary. They're super easy to redo. We actually have already reached out to Supermoto, someone I've worked with a bunch of times already, and we're gonna do custom lines for this thing. And we'll do a whole video showing how to actually measure those because they don't have this bike in their inventory. If they have your bike in the inventory, if they have your bike on file, you can actually go in there and order lines, and then you can do this thing where you say, oh, just add like 1, 2, 3, however many extra inches you want to add, and they'll add it on there. But in this case, this bike isn't in there. It's an odd bike, so of course, I will do a video showing how to actually measure these, as well as the rear one, and we're just gonna get a custom set. It's, you know, this thing's gonna sound scary, but I think it's under 150 bucks for a set of full custom brake lines. And this is actually where I'd love your help. Give me some suggestions if you have them. When we do custom brake lines like that for the dirt bike, there's actually several colors. The main ones I care about, you can do the brake line, we get to do a color for that. The stiffener tube, which is bent right here, it shouldn't be bent, it should be coming straight up, but we're out of slack here. And the banjos. So let me know if you got some fun ideas. I mean, we could keep with this theme, kind of the blues and high vis. I wasn't intending to go with that theme necessarily. I wasn't really sure, but I think we get a custom graphics kit. I think we're gonna kind of maybe stick with this theme, just more loud, more ridiculous. That aside, there's one other issue, and it's also to do with the brake, which I think you can see is just way too long. It's goofy, it's unusual. It's not like my hand's gonna reach way out here when I'm braking. I'm gonna be up in here on the brake. We drop the bike, this is gonna snap immediately, and when we go to put hand guards on, this is gonna be in the way. What we could do is try to get a shorter lever on here. This is a Brembo Master. Should be a number of options to put a shorter lever on this bike, you'd imagine. But I've actually had a really hard time finding one that is meant to work for this. You're not gonna be able to search Sherco Supermoto 500 shorter levers. It's just not proper enough of a bike. You're gonna have to find a bike that uses this and then search for a shorter lever for it. But I'm gonna put a bunch of the information on the screen. I'm gonna see if you guys can find one. I'm just having a really hard time. A bunch of people in my Discord were trying to find it, and we just are all swinging a miss. It's close, but not, you know, it's not quite there. In the meantime, I'm gonna do something that's gonna make some of you cringe a little. I'm gonna cut this one. I think I'm just gonna polish this entire thing. I mean, it's aluminum after all. That way it will match the other Brembo one, the clutch side. Scary, I know. Let's try it. There, bare lever, neat. Did I miss sawing this in half? Oh my God. Okay, here. Okay, I sawed it in half. Takes about 3 seconds. Aircraft aluminum, nice and easy to cut through. Oh, aircraft aluminum, so strong. No, it's just light. Now, if you were a stunter, you'd be done right there. You just put this back on the bike and be like, oh, bro, I know what the problem is. We're gonna make this a little nicer. And see, now it kind of looks like the clutch side one, see? Ah. I think that actually turned out pretty darn good there. Pretty darn good there. If you're wondering if this polished surface is, my hand's gonna slip off of it. I mean, yeah, I guess if you're a big, no, my hand's not gonna slip off of it. Remember, the clutch lever is just the same. Another thing I also did, by the way, see this bracket right here? With the relocation of all this, this thing was kind of in a weird position. So I took this bracket off and I thought, oh, I'll just bend it real quick and make it look good. And I thought, no one needs me to film that. I heated it up because aluminum, bent it, cleaned it up in the little Scotch-Brite wheel, bolted it up and thought, why didn't I film any of that? That'd have been useful to watch. You see it's nice and upright. That's what you want that to be. That is the handlebars installed. I'd love to go ride it right now and tell you how it works. I kind of need to get this brake line sorted first, and that's going to be another video. But I will say, yes, this is the position I was looking for. This is good to me. May not be good to you. Pick a set of bars that works good for you. But yep, I like that. I like that. So yes, bars. Not particularly hard, like we've said before, but don't expect to always be able to go and do them. You don't want to sit there and go, oh, I've got a set of bars to put on, start on them on Thursday evening for a ride I have over the weekend, because you never know if you need to order a brake line, throttle cable, extend some wires, or something just doesn't work at all. It might just be like, you know what, this bar isn't gonna work for me, and you gotta get a different set of bars. Thanks to RevZilla for setting me up with this bar, and link is in the description for those guys. Stay tuned for the other videos in this series. Like we said, we installed the G2 throttle. We actually have some on-road testing with this. We're gonna be doing some before and after to see how this makes a difference with the throttle tamer in there. Really cool. Still a normal quarter turn throttle. I think a lot of people think that the throttle tamer will make it long. No, it's kind of cool how it changes it around. Try and get this thing all squared away. This weather, it's been